Everyone. Welcome to Facebook Live with Flow Living. I'm Elisa Vitti, founder of Flow Living, author of Woman Code, and my new book, Baby in the Flow. And I am happy to be back now that I took a little hiatus while I was writing the book. Just got to be a little too much. But happy to be back doing these Facebook Lives so that we can connect every week to talk about what you need to know to thrive in a female body and to biohack like a woman. So, hi everyone. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. And while we do that, I'm of course going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk all about your infradian rhythm, because if you haven't heard about it yet, it's the new thing that you need to know about. And in fact, In the Flow is the first book to talk about the infradian rhythm. And I'm really proud to have put that together for us as women because we need it. So let me get into it. Today we're talking about, and anyone who's joining, please let me know where you're tuning in from. I love seeing how this movement around the infradian rhythm and the cycle syncing method is picking up all over the world. So you are so welcome here, and we're going to talk a lot about it today. Oh, that's awesome, Nikki. I'm glad your nutritionist suggested it. She is a smart lady. So good. All right. So today I want to talk about your infradian rhythm because you've got to get to know her. It's an extraordinary biological rhythm inside your body. If you're a person with female physiology, you have an infradian rhythm, and it plays a vitally important role in your health and well-being. And just for point of reference, it's the infradian rhythm is one of your body's two internal timekeepers. The other one, of course, is your circadian rhythm. And the infradian rhythm influences 6 different systems of your body: the brain, the metabolism, the immune system, the microbiome, the stress response system, and the reproductive system. And the reason why it's so important for us to A, know that this term exists, B, understand that it is affecting all of these systems of your body, and C, really learn about it deeply, is because people with female physiology can only feel their best when they eat, exercise, and live in ways that support the infradian rhythm. And I think that if we look at the inverse of what has been happening for women, right, over the past decade or just really forever, you know, let's just think back to the whole diet industry, the whole fitness industry, just everything in wellness in the past decade that's exploded online with biohacking. And women are the major consumer of this content. If any of that had been inclusive of your infradian rhythm, of your actual female hormonal biochemistry, all of those trends would have helped you by now, right? Just logical. And the reason why none of them have is because, right, high carb, low carb, no carb, high fat, low fat, no fat, high intensity interval training, to all cardio, to boot camp, to CrossFit, to if any keto, to IF, if any of this had actually been inclusive of your infradian rhythm, or rather, if any of this would have worked for you, it would have by now. But instead, what we have as women is the experience of we try all those things, and not only does it not yield the results that are promised based on the research, which I'll get into in a second, but then on top of it, we get sicker, right? We gain weight, or we burn out our adrenals, or our periods get funky, or our fertility and sex drive isn't where we want it to be, etc. And you've likely all had some experience of this, trying any number of diets, cleanses, programs, wellness trends. I know you have because you've told me. And that's what the research also says. So I think that it's important to note that though you've been doing your best, being diligent, dedicated, and thoughtful, you've been playing a losing game, a game where the rules are not set up in your favor. And that is because medical fitness and nutrition research has left women in their reproductive years out of all of this research. And of course, everything that comes out of that research is there to optimize the male hormonal pattern, which are the subjects that they study. And that really plays out in the data that we have. In the past decade, while there's been this explosion of online content and extreme biohacks and all this other stuff, women's hormone and autoimmune conditions have jumped to nearly 50% of the female population in that same time period. And when I started digging into why are women so sick, it really came down to the fact that we're being left out of the research, and that we have had this enormous blind spot in medicine, fitness, and nutrition around the infradian rhythm, and it affects all people with female physiology during their reproductive years. So my new book, which I'll just show again, I know some of you have it, but this one, In the Flow, is all about the infradian rhythm, the first book about it, and how the cycle syncing method, which is the method I created to help you live in alignment with this infradian rhythm, can really help you start to biohack like a woman and thrive. So today I wanted to just sort of break down a little bit more as to exactly, Bethany. Yeah, and some of you have already started implementing the cycle syncing method and are getting obviously the results that your body is designed to give you, right? Let me be clear. Nature designed you. I spent at least one full chapter in the first section of In the Flow, really just laying out for you what all the gifts that Mother Nature has imbued you with as a woman, from your brain, the different regions of your brain, your immune system, your nutrient extraction, metabolic system. Like, you have got the goods. You are designed to feel fantastic all the time. And if you're not, and you have symptoms with concentration, with productivity, with stress, with your microbiome, with your reproductive system, fertility, sex drive, period, and immune system, it lines up with the degree to which you have been disrupting your infradian rhythm with all of these diets, fitness programs, time management practices, morning routines, etc., that are disrupting that rhythm. And the longer you've been doing those things, the more disrupted your rhythm is, and the more of those six systems of the body are going to perform suboptimally. So when I'm telling you about biohacking like a woman, it's really simple. You just got to take care of that infradian rhythm, and everything else will flow. And yes, that is why I called the book In the Flow, because we're not just talking about being in the flow of your hormones. We're talking about the more you take care of that infradian rhythm, the more you can be in that peak flow state that all the success coaches, people like Tony Robbins, who are describing that, frankly, from a male biological point of view, that can happen for you much more consistently. You can architect that, you can biohack that peak flow state, not just with your health, but with every area of your life, from work to relationships to motherhood to your sex life. And we need it because 90% of mothers feel guilty and overextended. Lots and lots of women are unhappy in the corporate environment, of course, because it's not inclusive of your infradian rhythm. 60% of women are sexually unsatisfied. So what I'm sharing those statistics for is because we are far from the experience of a peak flow state in our lives. And because 50% of us are struggling with hormonal issues, we are definitely not experiencing peak flow in our health. And when we compare that, when I compared it to the male cohorts, which is another reason why I was writing this book, it's like we're not even on the same galaxy. They are thriving in their health and in their lives because they are synchronizing their self-care, their diet, their fitness, their exercise with their circadian hormonal biological rhythm. And you are not. And that is why you are not in your flow, and that is why they are. Helen, getting up at 5 o'clock, not useful at all. In fact, the female brain, because of its more complex, dense neural structures, needs 20 minutes more of sleep per night, scientifically researched, necessary. compared to male brains, in order for you to go through the cleansing process of the glymphatic system, the special lymphatic system of the brain is called the glymphatic system. You have to do that every night. So if you were in a, let's say, a heterosexual relationship and you've heard all the power morning routine rituals about getting up at 5 a.m., that actually optimizes for the male hormonal pattern because they're making all their testosterone while they're sleeping. It is very advantageous for men to wake up at 5 a.m. to have access to all that testosterone and cortisol, to build lean muscle, to have great sex, to do deep work as early as they can during the day, because they then fall off the hormonal cliff around 3 o'clock, which is why biohacking and nootropics and upgraded coffee and all of that stuff is so on the rise with men, because they need it in the afternoon. You don't. Nature didn't design you to fall off a cliff because you 3D print the tiny human beings, whether you have children or not, but because you have the capacity for that. It made you the more powerful nutrient extractor. It gave you the stronger immune system. It gave you the more powerful brain when it comes to leadership and stress management and so many other advantages, as well as energy stability. So this is just so important. And not to mention, the infradian rhythm modulates your cortisol patterns at rest throughout the 30-day cycle. So if you were to wake up at 5 a.m. in your follicular and ovulatory phase, you could get away with it. But in your luteal and menstrual phase, when resting cortisol levels are higher, you actually will disrupt your adrenal system for the entire day, throw off blood sugar, exacerbate PMS, steal from pregnenolone, decrease progesterone production, increase inflammation in the body, be in a fog, be miserable for no good reason except that you were given information that applies to male physiology and you were trying to apply it to yourself. So you see, Helen, that is why. So I'm glad this is making sense for you. And I can also appreciate if you're feeling like, wow, I wish we all knew this sooner. So do I. So do I. And that is why I wrote the book. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you, because it explains all the things that you have been confused about all these years. Like why it, because listen, and that's the frustrating thing for me the most, is the psychological impact, the impact that this has had on your psyche. You have been feeling and thinking all this time that something must be wrong with you. You have internalized your failure to apply a method of self-care that is not biologically appropriate for your hormonal ecosystem. You've been interpreting your failure for that to work in your system as a flaw within you versus a flaw of that method. The method is flawed. You are perfect. But you feel self-critical because you've been given the wrong information. And where's that wrong information come from? It comes from the fact that because you're left out of medical research and fitness research and nutrition research, the assumption that has been made because we've been left out is, well, how different could they be? Let's just make the assumption that they are smaller versions of men. And therefore, we'll just, with slower metabolisms, so therefore we'll just adjust, they should just adjust the recommendations, let's say with diet and fitness, to having to eat less, restrict calories more compared to men, and work out more every day, more cardio to burn fat compared to men. And that's just absolutely false. And in fact, the U.S. women's soccer team is using the information about the infradian rhythm to train their female athletes to great outcomes, right? So and why are they doing that? Because coaches use the knowledge of the male hormonal biological pattern, which follows that circadian rhythm, to their advantage when they train male athletes. They train male athletes at specific times of the day for building muscle versus burning fat, versus stretching and recovery. Men have been syncing with their hormonal cycle for millennia. In fact, if you want to view our culture, the patriarchy, whatever you want to call it, corporate culture, through the lens of biological rhythms, everything is oriented around the circadian rhythm, which is the male hormonal clock. And that's why everything feels more like it either doesn't work for you or feels like a struggle or it feels more stressful for you. That is not in your head. That is the reality of having an infradian biological clock that is excluded from society as a whole and of our conversation. And you trying to actively ignore your infradian clock and squeeze your female system into a circadian pattern. That creates real functional stress in the body that causes breakdown in these 6 systems of your body. So it's just massively important for you to know about your infradian rhythm. I can't stress enough. Obviously, I hope you can feel my passion about the subject through the screen because I just want us all to have the right foundation for us to move forward in health, so that we can then get to the business of being the agents of change that this planet so desperately needs in pretty much every level, because you're all here as powerful agents of change, unique like snowflakes to do something amazing in the world. Melissa, does this apply for pregnancy? In the book, there's a special biohacking section. Section number 1 answers all of those questions, like what if I'm on the pill? What if I'm breastfeeding? What if I'm pregnant? What if I'm in perimenopause? So I want you to go in and read your individual section. But while you're pregnant, your cycle is suspended, and therefore you would not be syncing your cycle during pregnancy. You would eat very specifically for pregnancy, and there are lots of great books that would help you with that. But as soon as you're done being pregnant and you get your cycle back, then your cycle is back. Your infradian clock is reactivated, and you would start syncing again. So let me go through some other details. So as I mentioned, the infradian rhythm is one of the 2 internal timekeepers experienced by people with female biochemistry. You experience it over the course of that 28-day cycle, but it goes way beyond your period. It is not just about your period. It's about your brain. It is about your metabolism, your immune system, your microbiome, your stress response system, and your reproductive system. It's your second clock to the circadian clock, right? Which everyone has. Children, men, women, adults, old people, young people, all have a circadian clock. But women, from their first bleed until your last bleed, you have an infradian clock that is activated. And I want to share some pretty exciting things about the infradian clock and its effect on your brain and your body. So some fun facts. The infradian rhythm creates a 25% change in your brain chemistry over the course of the month. This was discovered in 1996 by Dr. Catherine Woolley, a research professor at Northwestern University. So your brain functions differently throughout the month and in amazing ways. And I outline what those are in the book so you can start to take advantage of them in your work and in your productive life, right? Because not knowing that is a liability, right? Because then you're not working to your advantages. Your metabolism speeds up and slows down predictably across this month, and you must change what you eat, the calorie amount that you eat, and the intensity of your workouts each week in order to optimize your metabolism. Your cortisol levels, as I mentioned before, are higher in the first half of your cycle, the follicular and the ovulatory, and they're lower in the first half of your cycle, and then they're higher in the luteal and menstrual. And so you have to change your workouts. You can do intense workouts in the first half when cortisol is lower, and you can work out more than 30 minutes. In the second half of your cycle, especially if you're recovering from any PMS or hormonal issues, you want to limit your workouts to 30 minutes, and you cannot do any high intensity interval training with a cardio or any workouts with a cardio component, because it's going to elevate that resting cortisol and trigger fat storage and the wasting of lean muscle, which you do not want to do because it's going to undo all your good work from the previous 2 weeks of building lean muscle with that high intensity workout. As I mentioned earlier, because females have a more complex brain, the female brain needs 20 minutes longer every night to sleep and reset for the cognitive day ahead. And people with female physiology tend to need less in the way of extreme self-care practices because we have a lot of efficiencies with our biology and biochemistry. So it's really exciting. You have these 4 phases to your cycle. I've mentioned them a couple of times. It's the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, the luteal phase, and the bleeding phase. And during each of these 4 phases, you experience normal fluctuations that influence your body temperature, skin elasticity, sleep cycle, energy, emotions, and cognitive function. And your infradian rhythm works very closely with your circadian rhythm. So another reason to support the infradian rhythm is if you have a disrupted infradian rhythm, it's going to mess with your circadian rhythm, and that of course has its own health implications. So not only does the cycle syncing method help you take care of the infradian rhythm, but it indirectly, and for those of you with an active infradian rhythm, really supports your circadian rhythm as well. Let me see if there's any questions. Yeah, Jody, weight training in the luteal is great. Chipang is asking, how does Woman Code differ from In the Flow? Woman Code is the first book that I wrote, and that is a book for women who are actively diagnosed with PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, and you're having a major endocrine breakdown or dysfunction in your endocrine system. And so the flow protocol that's described in Woman Code is going to help you really reset, recalibrate, allow your endocrine system to recover its own homeostasis through the flow protocol. In the Flow is for every woman with whatever's going on. But if you just have, let's say, garden variety PMS, or you want to optimize your fertility, or you want to really support and slow down perimenopause, if you want to biohack to better health, if you want to become more successful in your life, this is the book that's for every woman, whether or not you have a health issue. It's just every woman needs to have access to this information because it's how your body, brain, everything functions, and you need to know how to use it so that you can take advantage of what nature has encoded you with. So let's see, what other things do I want to tell you? Let's talk about the tendency that you have, or why it's not advantageous to eat the same way and exercise the same way every day. So, oftentimes the people will say, okay, you've got to eat, for women, it's like you got to eat 1,200 calories a day, and you've got to do, the same intense workout every day, right? And so you do that, right? You do your 1,200 calories a day, and you do your HIIT workout every day. And I want to know if the fact that you feel like you notice an experience of feeling really good doing that calorie restriction and that intense workout in some days, and then other days where it feels really, really hard. And yes, Erica, this is all recorded and it'll be posted on the page forever. So you can always come to Flow Living and go click on videos, and you'll see all the video archive. There are lots and lots of videos. You can pick and choose whatever you like. So enjoy your day at work. So if you've experienced that, or let's say you went to your favorite workout class back when we could go and do that in person, and sometimes you would go and you'd be flying out of class, full of energy, full of the endorphins, riding high on that workout. And then other days you'd go to the class, same teacher, same moves, same everything, but you'd be staring at the clock. When is this over? When can I be done? And then you'd drag yourself out of class and would be dragging for several hours after. That's a excellent example of infradian disruption, what it feels like and how it practically plays out in your life. What's scary about that, though, I think the worst thing about it is just how deeply conditioned we have all been to ignore that biofeedback. right? You've been taught from a very young age to ignore the biofeedback of your female body. So you've just been, instead of listening to the biofeedback, taking it seriously, like you would if you had an elevated temperature, right? Or elevated blood pressure. You would take that biofeedback very seriously. You've been conditioned from a young age to know that that's a warning signal from your body. This warning signal of infradian disruption or period problems, you've been taught to ignore and to devalue. So then you don't do anything and you keep doing the same thing that's hurting your body, getting worsening biofeedback messages, worsening symptoms, and continuing to do the same damaging diet and fitness and lifestyle behaviors. That's the worst of it. The worst of it is that you believe that you should ignore it, and you come by that honestly. That is not your fault. That is just a product of the cultural narrative that says that women should ignore their bodies because it's a liability, and that there's nothing to be done because they're cursed with the the horrible female reproductive system, and it's a curse, right? Which couldn't be further from the truth. You have this second biological clock. It is so powerful. Your whole system is so powerful. It's remarkable, actually. It's something to be envious of, in fact. And we haven't been told any of that. Tina, do I recommend using supplements? You bet. So much so, specific ones that are well documented to support the endocrine system. And I formulated my own set there at flowliving.com. Just click on supplements, and it's everything that I would hope that your endocrine system would have access. Um, so, okay, let me sort of finish here. So here's the deal with the workouts and the exercise, right? So in the first half of your cycle, like I said earlier, your metabolism is slightly slower and resting cortisol levels are slightly lower. And what this means is you should eat fewer calories because that will feel very easy for you to do. You can eat lighter foods. You also, because of the estrogen surge of ovulation, need to eat a very plant-forward diet so that you can metabolize that estrogen very effectively. And then you want to do your high intensity interval training and cardio workouts. The combination of doing those things alongside what's happening metabolically and stress response system wise is going to trigger you to build lean muscle and utilize stored fat. And this is absolutely going to optimize. This is like a huge biohack, right? We're talking about like the ultimate, like what's the easiest thing that you can do to get the most positive result in multiple systems of your body? This is what the cycle syncing method is about. Then in the second half, once you cross the threshold of ovulation, now you're in the luteal phase, you need about 250 more calories per day. Your metabolism speeds up quite a bit in order for it to build the lining of the uterus and to maintain an embryo if there's fertilization, and to produce progesterone. So you need 250 more calories. You must eat them. If you don't eat them proactively and really slow burning, blood sugar stabilizing versions of them, your brain is going to send out powerful signals of ghrelin to cause you to binge eat on carbohydrates that are less than optimal, in which we've all been there during our PMS phase, right? It's because you've not been eating enough because your metabolism has sped up, but you've been taught that you're a woman with a slower metabolism and you have to calorie restrict all the time, otherwise you're going to get fat. You know, I'm paraphrasing the what's out in the ether there. And so you don't eat, or you try not to. You try to eat your smoothie and your salad and be quote unquote good all day, and then by nighttime you go into a trance of eating carbs until there's nothing left to eat in the cabinets, right? That's another form of biofeedback. That's ghrelin and insulin, and that's what it is, right? So you cannot outsmart your biochemistry. It runs the show. And so it's just so important for you to like work with it. Okay. And then because you also have slightly higher resting levels of cortisol, your adrenals need a lot more support. And so one of the ways so the ideal combination here is to eat more calorie dense foods, more blood sugar stabilizing foods throughout this second half of the cycle, and to do no cardio. And that's documented study. It's not just my suggestion. they're doing high intensity interval training in the second half is contraindicated for your luteal phase. So what you want to do is do strength training without a cardio component. That could be holding a squat up against the wall, could be holding planks, could be doing Pilates, yoga, stuff like that. Okay. Um, so that is that piece. And so this is just sort of one of the fundamental, so the food and the fitness are two of the fundamental pillars of the cycle syncing method. Um, and the third pillar, of course, is the time management piece. In the new book, in chapter 6, there is a brand new time management planner that I designed to incorporate both the infradian clock and the circadian clock. Because if you are only managing your time and productivity based on the 24-hour clock, you are never going to be as creative and productive as nature has designed you to be. And so factoring in that 25% brain chemistry change throughout the month using the right time management planner is essential. And I teach you how to do that in the book. And of course, in Flow 28, which is our cycle syncing membership, which we have women all around the world who are learning how to live an infradian life in a circadian world. Okay. So that's a fun place for those of you who are eager to dive deeper. That's where I teach monthly, and we really get into it. So I want to sort of answer the question of sort of why is it that we've not heard about this before. I've been doing podcasts since the book launched, and I've had medical doctors who've never heard of the infradian rhythm before. So why is that? Well, a couple things. First, the field within biology that studies biological rhythms is called chronobiology. It's a relatively young field within biology. It's sort of started in the 60s and 70s. And they've really hyper focused on the circadian clock because, maybe a little bit of just bias or in the research or whatever. But I think that there is some sort of update needed because the rationale that has always been given as to why they don't study women's cycles more is to say, oh, it's too complicated, too many fluctuations, etc. We can't control in the experiment. Setting up the experiment, you have to have controls. And since they go through these changes every 28 days, we can't account for it. And so we're just going to leave women out and focus on men who have this predictable 24-hour circadian cycle. But that's really ridiculous because within the 24-hour hormonal cycle for men, they go through as many hormonal changes as we do, but just in a 24-hour period. So in fact, that could be viewed as more complex. The reason it's not viewed as more complex is typically because the people setting up the research trials are men, and so you just naturally have bias to think that your own system is simpler. And so that's a little frustrating. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is that women's concerns about their health are often dismissed as psychological, and that has been a cultural kind of normal thing to say, oh, well, if a woman is feeling tired, it's in her head, or if she's feeling stressed, it's in her head, or if she's feeling pain, it's just in her head. It can't be real because we don't know anything about her body, so therefore we don't study her body, and since we don't know, we don't study it, and we don't have any answers, we should then gaslight her. To really break it down, well, let's just gaslight her to think she's making it up. It's honestly, I haven't really said it like that before. That's ridiculous. It's ultimate gaslighting all over the place. But that really what should be said is, gee, we don't know enough about your body. We haven't studied your body and its hormones enough. And so I believe you that your pain and suffering is real, but we just don't have any answers. That would be at least a better thing to hear from the medical community as opposed to it's just in your head, wouldn't it? I think that would feel much better. And there's a great book if you want to dive deeper into the whole gender bias in medicine, a great book called Doing Harm, The Truth About How Bad Medicine and Lazy Science Leave Women Dismissed, Misdiagnosed, and Sick by author Maya Dusenberry. Excellent read, give you a lot of perspective about the gender bias in medicine and why that is holding you back from feeling your best. And I think it's important to know that's that. Um, okay, Dawn, weightlifting is great in the second half. Um, I'm just reading. So where is the best hit in the cycle? No, hit it again. You're going to go in this book. There's a chart in chapter 5 called Fitness Flow, and that's going to give you section phase by phase with a list of different exercises you can do. It's not just one type in each phase. You can do 5 or 6 different types of workouts in each phase, and there's a chart that will tell you. But you want to do hit, not late menstrual. You want to do that in the first half. You want to do follicular and ovulatory. Emily, there's great information about the estrobolome on the Flow Living blog. Just type in estrobolome and you can read up blogs on there. PMS symptoms, Bethany, in ovulation. I would encourage you to download the MyFlow tracker app. That's the app I created. MyFlow has the circle icon, not the feather. That's a whole other story. And that will help you understand and sort of narrow in on your symptoms, but it sounds like you may have some estrogen overload taking place there. Chi, how do you know which phase you're in? You got to download the MyFlow tracker, top paid app in the health and fitness category for periods. There are no other apps in that category that deal with menstruation. I would highly recommend. It'll tell you which phase you're in. It's the only app that tells you about the cycle syncing method and all of that, and so it's going to help you understand which phase you're in, so you don't have to remember it or all of that. So thank you, Margarita, for yes, that's the book I was mentioning. Really fascinating read, excellent that she pulled that all together. And yes, Alexis, we've all been there. If a doctor actually referred you in the modern era for hysteria, that is pretty remarkable because that's a diagnosis that was invented for women in the mid to late 1800s because doctors had no studies on women available to them, and so they couldn't explain a number of things happening that women would come in talking about, and they would just sort of call it all hysteria. And hysteria is from the Greek word hysteros, which is the word that we use for uterus because it means vessel. Hysteros, the Greek. Really good to know your Latin and Greek etymology because then you can understand where these words come from. So interesting. But, again, I am an ultimate nerd, so I like all that stuff. So yes, micronutrient support, Chi, is absolutely something that you need when you're trying to recover your cycle, your fertility. It's so, so, so important. Okay, so let me just break down the cycle syncing method a little bit more. You're going practicing. So uncovering this about the infradian rhythm was one thing, and painting or putting a picture frame around the problems that we're all suffering with as a result of us ignoring the infradian rhythm was another thing. But I also wanted to create a solution that would help you align with your infradian rhythm, really support it deeply so that you could start to finally feel good in your body and then actually have a real true chance to thrive in your life. And I say that not flippantly because I know firsthand what it feels like to have your time and energy and mental clarity and mood totally destabilized or taken from you because of hormonal dysfunction and dysregulation. I mean, my entire decade from 12 to 22, that was my experience. So I know what that feels like firsthand. And also because, you can't, when your health is not your foundation, when you don't have your health as a solid foundation, you cannot springboard into creating the life that you want, right? Instead, you feel like you're constantly on a hamster wheel, not even a treadmill, just a hamster wheel running around this circle of sometimes you're up and you feel good and you feel like something you're trying is working, and then you self-sabotage because it's not inclusive of your infradian rhythm and you have no choice but to stop using that program, and then you don't feel good and you try something else and you're behind the eight ball of the rest of your life because you're chasing the wrong methodology to try to just finally feel okay. And what I'm telling you is that you really can feel so much better. Um, and it's just so, you just deserve that. So when I figured this all out, it was clear to me that we needed a method that really supported this biological rhythm. And that's why I created the cycle syncing method. It, it, it really is simple to do. It's got three pillars, right? You've got the diet piece, the fitness piece, and the time management piece. And it at first can sound like, oh wait, I got to change things 4 times a month. It's really not overwhelming because what you're going to do is you're going to start with one, right? And those of you who are in Flow 28 with us, you know we start with one thing at a time. So you're going to start with food or you're going to start with exercise. And you're going to just sync with each phase of your cycle based on the charts, based on the app, what you're supposed to eat when, which workouts you're supposed to do at which phase. And then you start to feel your energy come back. You start to feel your symptoms of PMS go away. It's really, really amazing how quickly that comes back. There was a woman actually, and that's just a baseline. There was a woman. People are posting on their IG stories all over the world of what is happening to them once they start taking care of their infradian rhythm with the cycle syncing method. And I watch each and every video. And this one woman recently, just a day or two ago, posted about how for 20 years of her life, the second half of her cycle, luteal and menstrual, was debilitating, severe PMS, and then like cramps to the point of vomiting and blacking out and just days off of work. And this was 20 years of her life. And she was in a state of joyful disbelief that after 6 weeks of, as she put it, only doing half of what I told her to do in the method, in the cycle syncing method, that she had her first symptom-free, pain-free, vomit-free, blackout-free cycle in her life. And she just wanted to know, and she asked, why couldn't I have had this information sooner? And I wish I could answer that question in a satisfactory way. I cannot. But what I can say is, now that we have the information, let's for sure all use it, because that is just something that everybody should have access to. So you don't want to get overwhelmed. You just want to start small, and even doing it 50% of the time will support, of course, right? Because think about it. Even you likely don't get perfect sleep every night, right? Like your circadian rhythm, it wants you to have a consistent bedtime, a consistent wake up time, 8 hours of perfect sleep with all your optimal REM cycles and all of that, right? Some of you may even wear sleep trackers to see if you're getting your optimal sleep. You may not be getting your optimal sleep, but you see, even if you get 50% optimal sleep, your body is designed to thrive as much as possible with however much optimal sleep you are going to get to support that circadian clock. The same applies to the infradian clock. You don't have to be perfect. This is not a diet. This is just how you live as a female in your reproductive years, because that's how your body works. It's not a trend. It is not a diet. It is just working with the body's biology. Very, very different. And oh, Jackie, I am so glad you're PMDD, which, by the way, according to medicine, is this mysteriously caused phenomenon that they don't understand, that has no cause or cure, that you are supposed to just be left alone to suffer with. You see, everything in the body wants to balance. The body is designed for homeostasis and well-being. Yolanda, don't get overwhelmed. Don't do it all at once. Please, I don't want you to be perfect. That voice of perfectionism comes out of the circadian living, where you try to keep yourself to be the same every day and fight the fact that you have a dynamic and not a static nature. So you try to be perfect. It's actually a toxic psychological side effect of forcing yourself to stay stuck in that static circadian life. You don't have to be perfect. You are dynamic. And what is the most powerful force of something natural and a powerful natural element? The most powerful one on our planet is water, and it's constantly moving and it's dynamic. It can erode mountains, which are static, right? So I would highly encourage you to let go of perfectionism and be oceanic in your dynamic nature and embrace the fact that you do not have to get the cycle syncing method perfectly right or even do it all. You just need to do some and add more as you go until you just, that's your second nature, as it is for me. Um, it's good. I also want to just share, I'm on day 2 of my bleed because I want to share that with you to show you what a hormonally balanced, infradian supported energy level looks like, right? So if you don't sound and look like this on day 2 or day 1 of your bleed, that has to do with the degree of disruption to your infradian rhythm that you are perpetrating on your own body. And I want you to stop. And I want you to start cycle syncing because it will change absolutely everything about your life. And I love being able to share that with you because everything that I've heard before is like, oh, everything's going to change your life. This is going to change your life. And I've tried all those things, and none of those things have changed my life. The only thing that changed my life in every possible way has been this. So I just want you to know I'm there with you too, because I get that you've tried a lot of things, and I take that really seriously because what that means for me is that just how much women have been taken advantage of, if I can just say it directly, right? You've been over marketed to and underrepresented in research, and not for things that are going to help you. So there's that. Okay. It has some great implications too with productivity. I know someone asked about the brain chemistry shifts. What that means is that you will, for example, notice that in these 4 different phases that you are going to, I'll answer your question, Stamen, in a second. You're going to have different areas of cognitive peak performance. You can do anything at any time. Okay, there actually was a study to see if women were cognitively inferior during different phases of their cycle, because there are people who are very interested in using that as justification not to have women in high leadership positions. But of course, that none of that is true. You are fully competent cognitively every single day, every minute of the day, and then some. But what you have in addition to that baseline of excellence, cognitive excellence, is that you have the infradian modulation of estrogen taking place across the month, and you get to have super verbal powers during certain phases of the month and super concentration during the luteal phase. 10 to 14 days out of your month, you have all this extra progesterone, makes you super calm, super focused. That's when you're going to do all your deep work on your projects, right? How I get so much done and run a company, have a marriage, have a child, have been homeschooling her, write books, take care of myself, is that I plan my life months at a time, understanding where I am in my infradian cycle so that I can optimize what I'm working on when to get it done faster and easier. Because I can do it anytime, but why not do it when I get the extra brain juice to do it, so then I don't have to, I feel no stress. I feel in the flow. That's what I'm talking about. I feel in the flow. I want you to feel in the flow. Um, okay. Someone, oh, I'm so glad, Jeanette. I'm so glad. Stamen, okay, so you only have the infradian rhythm active from your first bleed to your last. So if you're in perimenopause, perimenopause is long, like the luteal phase. It's a 10 to 20 year process. So it starts at 35 and it can end anywhere from 50 to 55. The first stage of perimenopause, and please, if you are perimenopausal, please go to flowliving.com and just type in the search bar perimenopause. There's an excellent article and resource guide for you there about perimenopause and how to navigate it in the different stages, because I'm running out of time here. And so you can do that. But once you're postmenopausal, your infradian clock deactivates and you go back to a circadian only clock. And so that's when you would want to do all the things like intermittent fasting and strength training and all that stuff that's going to absolutely give you the results that have been researched, but not until you are 1 year out from your last bleed. Very, very simple. Yeah, Margarita, if you feel like you can't concentrate and you're foggy and you can't get things done during your luteal phase, that's brain biofeedback letting you know that you're having some imbalanced progesterone and you got to double down on your work, eating the foods, taking the supplements that are going to help you boost your progesterone, and also triple check your calorie intake and your workout intensity during the luteal phase, because if you're not eating enough and working out too hard, your cortisol levels are going to be on the rise and it's going to steal from pregnenolone, which then decreases progesterone output for that cycle. What is the homepage that I talk about in my book? Well, there's flowliving.com. That has all the resources, and then there's intheflowbook.com, and there's myflowtracker.com. Yes, Caitlin, we are working on our tech. I am a female-run company, not funded, and doing all that I can to build and make everything for you. And we are about to release a version 2.0, which should solve some of the Google bugs, but some of those have happened and we have addressed them in each and every time. Okay, so for those of you who are really, really excited about the infradian rhythm and you have understood and related to what I've been talking about today, I want to invite you to join me in Flow 28, because this is where yes, that is Flow 28. The Cycle Syncing membership is Flow 28. That's where we gather together as a global community of women who are learning to live in an infradian life in a circadian world. And you're going to get grocery lists, meal plans, recipes for each of the phases of your cycle. You're going to get workout videos, so you have that support for each phase. And you get monthly master chats with me like this in a private Facebook group where we can really roll up our sleeves and answer all of your questions about every little thing about living in this lifestyle. And I love this community so much because women become leaders in this community and help other women. There's like a real sisterhood bond. So I'd really encourage you, if you are ready to do the thing with the infradian rhythm, to come join us in Flow 28. And because I like to celebrate you taking supportive action for yourself in a culture that trains you not to take care of yourself and to ignore yourself, I want to celebrate you doing something that is against your conditioning. I want to celebrate you. If you join Flow 28 today, you're going to get my very lovely Get Me in the Flow Fast gift. So it's going to be the 4-day hormone detox plan, which is a $49 value. You're going to get my personal home medicine cabinet natural remedies guide, which is a $27 value. And you're going to get the cycle rituals guide, which is a $27 value. And to join Flow 28 is only $28. So you're going to get basically over $100 in gifts just to join, and it's $28 every month, of course, because your cycle is 28 days. It has to be $28. So in order for you to do that, just go to the link at Cycle Syncing membership up here, join, and then email support. I'm typing support at Flow Living with your receipt, and you'll get all the free gifts. And this will be available until Friday midnight Eastern Standard Time. So I hope that you join me there, because I want to keep talking about this with you. I want to keep answering your questions, and I want you to start living in support of your infradian rhythm, because I just know how transformative it is for you. So I have loved spending this time with you today. I hope that you have learned a tremendous amount about your infradian rhythm. I hope that you share this video with as many women in your life as you love, because we don't want to hear any more. I wish I knew this sooner. Okay, now we have the information. Please help me share this with every single woman until every single woman knows what to do. And join me in Flow 28 if you're really ready to start cycle syncing, and we will be cycle syncing sisters there together. And then I'll be back next Thursday at 1 or 1:30 to talk about some other wonderful topic to help you live more in alignment with your beautiful, powerful, majestic female self and body. And until then, take really good care of your ovaries, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.